On today's video, we're going to be talking about some of the homeless deaths that have happened in the Bradenton area over the last year with information that we're getting from the medical examiner's office. The purpose of today's video is to inform the public. Despite these being homeless people, we want to show them the most respect. Many of them have died under mental health, natural disasters, and other very sad situations. Everything we're talking about here today is public records, but we're going to heavily retract a lot of the information to show respect to the victims. Not all cases are discoverable to the public because of their nature, so this is only a small picture of what's going on in our community. On our channel, we've extensively covered the struggles and hardships of homeless people in Bradenton, Florida, and on today's video, we're going to see some paperwork on this issue. January 2025, an Arctic blast grips the state of Florida. In Pensacola, Florida, 10 inches of snow cover the streets and homeless people freeze to death overnight. Headlines the following day: in Pensacola, homeless people freeze to death on the streets. January 20th, Bradenton, Florida. Homeless people can be seen wearing sweaters as the approaching Arctic blast is already bringing cold weather to the state's southern tip. January 1st, 2025, the Manatee County Sheriff's Office is trespassing a homeless person from the Dollar Tree shopping plaza between Sarasota and Bradenton. According to the medical examiner's report, moments after this person was trespassed, they wandered onto US 41, where they were lost in a collision with a vehicle on the highway. With a brutal Arctic blast coming, it wouldn't be a surprise if this person intentionally did this act. However, law enforcement and the medical examiner's offices know very well that there's no way of knowing what was going through this person's brain at the time of this act. But perhaps facing homelessness and an arrest or sleeping on the streets on a brutally cold night, the person couldn't handle it anymore. And it's really one of those cases where we're never really going to know, because after all, there's no way of telling what's going through somebody's brain. We requested the body cam footage from the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, but I have very little hope that we're actually going to see that video. Now, usually it takes weeks or months for the Manatee County's Records Department to reply to a request, but we got this reply well within business hours. On one end, the Manatee County Sheriff's Office says that this is confidential, we can't see it, but why would a trespassing charge be confidential when, according to the medical examiner's report, that death was unrelated to their incident? So why would it be confidential if it's unrelated, right? Because in the medical examiner's report, the Manatee County Sheriff's Office said, hey, listen, yes, they got hit by a car just after seeing us, but we had nothing to do with it. It was a completely different incident. Then why couldn't we see this footage if it's a completely isolated incident? Clearly, there's something to hide here, or they just don't want the public to know the truth about the fact that after harassing a homeless person, that homeless person most likely, well, we'll never really know the answer, will we? But the facts remain the same. The Manatee County Sheriff's Office trespassed a homeless person, and soon after, that homeless person perished. I do believe the public should be able to see that footage and know exactly what happened during that encounter that led to that incident, but apparently there's something that needs to be hidden here. According to the state law, if in fact these incidents were unrelated, then there's no reason why the Manatee County would withhold this footage. I bet you a good lawyer will get that footage. They really should have to release it, they just don't want to. Back in June of last year, we recorded a video at this homeless camp in the vicinity of Manatee County. At the time, I didn't specify what county this was in. I just said somewhere in the Tampa Bay area. We were inside of this homeless camp, literally in the mangroves. The reason I didn't release what county this was in is because there were numerous people living back in these camps, and I didn't want law enforcement to see the video and go target these people. But unfortunately, law enforcement ended up here anyways. On January 10th, Manatee County Sheriff's Office was approached by a transient or homeless man who reported that he had found a weapon in the woods, and he dropped it when he discovered a human skull. Now, this was at the same homeless camp where we had done a video 6 months prior. So is it possible that the day that I did my video at this camp, there was actually remains there and we just didn't notice them? Well, after much research, it turns out that the person had been in the hospital on the 27th of September, but our video was in June. That means that the person was actually at the camp after we recorded the video. But interestingly, it was a very close proximity of time where we could have actually discovered this ourselves. In other words, we were at this camp, well, a few months before the person perished. It was a 73-year-old male who had quite a few health problems. Now, I personally retracted a lot of information from the report because all this information should be kept private out of respect. Nonetheless, this was one of the many other homeless people who have perished here in Manatee County. Should a person that's 73 years old really have to die in the woods like this? This is how people are perishing in the United States, living in these conditions, only to be found as skeletal remains much after. On the 27th of September, he was in the hospital with some issues, and the next month, in October, Hurricane Milton and Helene hit this area, and his remains were scattered over a large area, which could suggest that perhaps he perished after being released from the hospital at his homeless camp, only to have his body, which was not discovered at the time, be tossed around after the hurricane. Absolutely disastrous. Now, of course, in the woods, in the mangroves, out here where there's raccoons and mosquitoes and bugs and all types of animals, there's no real telling the timeline of things. But the sad reality is that this person was released from the hospital right before we got hit by 2 hurricanes, and afterwards he is discovered as a skeleton. Most likely he didn't survive the hurricanes. Florida's elderly homeless population is living in precarious situations like this in the mangroves during hurricanes where many times they don't make it.
Like, there was a hurricane when I was homeless the last time. There was also a lot of rain because we lived by a lake type thing, and we also had to be careful too to make sure we don't get trespassed. But being pregnant, trying to trail through that is a lot. You know, I'm out of breath, and there's time I was at the camp by myself.
I was flooded out in a hurricane again. This is the second time. I was staying right here. Water got up to here on me, the first hurricane.
So while it can't be confirmed by the medical examiner's office whether it was the hurricane that killed this homeless person, we literally interviewed homeless people during the hurricane. Our YouTube channel literally documented how there were homeless people outside and in their tents during the hurricanes, and it's not a surprise that perhaps even here in Manatee County, where the homeless people were outside for a freaking hurricane, 2 hurricanes back to back to be exact, it isn't a surprise that some of them here in this county didn't make it. Both of these homeless deaths in Manatee County are very inconclusive. There's no way for us to really know if exactly the negligence on local agencies led to these homeless deaths due to hurricanes and due to other weather inclements. But what we do know is that homeless people are perishing on the streets of Manatee County, and perhaps more could have been done to prevent it. We can't affirmatively say they were the cause, but it's questionable. Without a doubt, when we were documenting these conditions in Florida, we knew very well that eventually some wouldn't make it. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
What's your name, brother?
My name is Bo.
Bo?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
The way I came out here in this struggle, man, is really, I had a home, and it was in prime real estate in Ybor City. And, you know, the people wanted to sell the house, and what they did is they condemned the house.
Throughout Florida, counties are allowing mobile home parks where many elderly residents live to be rezoned. These are the last affordable areas for elderly people to live. When these mobile home parks get rezoned, they're developed with more expensive real estate, and the people that live in these places, many times they're elderly, they've lived there for decades, they have nowhere to go. Many of them end up on the streets, and eventually they end up dying homeless. This is the reality of Florida's real estate development, where when people who have nowhere else to go end up on the streets because of affordability, You have elderly people who end up on the streets, and many of these people eventually die, not because of addiction, not because of bad decisions, but because at their elderly age, they're simply not able to take care of themselves like they were when they were younger. And the few affordable options that they had, like these types of mobile home parks, are quickly being swallowed up by developers looking to build quote-unquote luxury apartments in their place. February 26, 2025, Racetrack gas station on Cortez across from the Walmart in Bradenton. A popular place for people to panhandle, there's always homeless people in and out of this spot non-stop. With so many homeless people in the area, it's questionable how a body would get to decompose at a place like this. Without a doubt, people knew that this was here, but nobody wanted to talk to the law. It's a very active area. There's always homeless people at this location. In fact, we've interviewed people like this woman who for a time was living out of her van in that Walmart parking lot.
I'm homeless, and I've been homeless for a year. And it started 2 years ago when I fell in a hole with this leg, twisted my knee, and I had to have a total mental.
Ooh, that looks painful.
They illegally evicted me, took my home away from me.
48-year-old white male in advanced stages of decomposition in a wooded area. He was homeless. It's hard to believe with as many homeless people as reside at this particular area, even the report notes that it's a high transient area, that it took that long for anybody to say something. Not many notes on this case. The man was white, 48 years old, and known to be a heavy drinker, but refused to admit to using anything illicit. Now, I've tried to do interviews inside of this wooded area. One time we actually started the interview with people that were wearing ski masks, but it became violent and we literally had to run away, promising them that we would delete the footage because, well, it really is a very dangerous place. So this is a wooded area that I tried to go in to make a video, but it worked so badly out that we actually never published it. So that's the second person found at a homeless camp in Bradenton that we have been into for our YouTube channel. And like I said, while I didn't publish that video, we did get started with it. It just became so dangerous that I decided to leave during the filming. Without a doubt, these homeless camps are dangerous places. And many times when somebody passes away, the homeless people just flee the place because they're afraid of reaching out to law enforcement to report the body, which means that despite the fact that these homeless camps are home to dozens of people, when somebody perishes, everybody just disappears and they don't find the body until it's kind of late. On a daily basis, people come in and out of these camps, so it's a surprise that it takes to the stage of decomposition before law enforcement gets involved many times. For people who are homeless, they don't have many options. They can be on a sidewalk being harassed by law enforcement, or they can creep into the woods where very scary things happen, out of sight, out of mind. And even when something serious happens, it can take months for law enforcement to finally find out. Perhaps the saddest homeless death in Manatee County happened on May 5th. 30-year-old white male. The previous day, his girlfriend had reported him missing, and he texted her that he had bought something illegal, and well, that was the end of a young man. It was identified by his tattoos, and his story corroborated by the girlfriend's missing person case. May 17th, Palmetto, Florida, in a mobile home park. A 45-year-old white woman was homeless, recently released from jail, was at a friend's house in the bathroom. She was discovered there next to paraphernalia. Once again, we see that one of the leading causes of death for the homeless is unfortunately interactions with illicit substances.